Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another episode of the Walk-On Redshirts. Walk-ons are dead now, but hey, we're going to keep this show alive. We have a very, very, very special guest on today's episode, Max Browne. Max, thanks for coming on.
Hey, walk-ons are not dead in my book. My best friends are walk-ons, and once upon a time, I'm pretty sure my wife thought I was a walk-on quarterback at USC. So I'm glad to rep the brand.
Yeah, and you couldn't be further from a walk-on. I think you're one of the highest-rated recruits of all time. So that's nothing like some humble pie from that's probably why you married her. You had to go pursue her after that.
That's always the joke with us is we started dating like right as I became the starting quarterback at USC. So we've been married for 3.5 years. So we're good to go. But the bit for a little while there was like, hey, that timing, it's funny how that works. You get the starting job and then you get the girl right along with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then she's an athlete herself, volleyball player, right?
She is volleyball. Is she walk-on too?
Walk-on too. See, that's why she had to try to bring you down. It's crabs in a bucket, Max. Don't let her do that to you. And let's get to that. So I have your hometown in here because I have to try to pronounce this.
Sammamish, yeah, give it a run.
Sammamish, Washington.
Bingo. Well done.
What, on the first try?
First try, man. I grew up in suburbs of Seattle, and those that are familiar with the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of like Native American towns. You got Sammamish, Issaquah, Snohomish. So yeah, they sound more remote than they actually are.
Yeah. Okay. So does that get me a free Pike's Place tomorrow since I pronounced it correctly?
There you go. You earned it.
So, just give you a quick introduction. If people who don't know who Max Browne is, he's had an excellent career playing football and then is now in a budding career in football analysis and color commentary. So, two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in Washington, which is impossible. It's almost impossible to get it, one time. To get it twice, that's unreal. 3 straight finals in Washington football, which I don't know if people realize, but Washington football is legit. There's some freaking good athletes up there. Played some basketball. We're going to have to ask about that. Are you the stereotypical quarterback / basketball player? Hang around the 3-point line and shoot, or I'm going to have to ask you some of those questions in a minute. And now, current ACC network analyst, co-worker of one of my friends, Eric McLean, one of my former teammates. But you started from the bottom. I mean, you're a walk-on when it comes to football commentary. So you jump into YouTube and just start building content, and here you are. But your content's phenomenal, by the way. So again, welcome Max Browne onto the show. Let's start with your recruiting story. So I want to take you back to Sammamish. You're one of the highest rated recruits of all time. I think were you number one in that class in 2013?
Depends on the site, but yeah, I had the majority of the sites.
So don't let your wife know there's other sites. The site that had you number one, that is the only recruiting site. Okay.
Funny enough, the only site that didn't was now my current employer, ESPN. So I guess it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, see, it was rigged though. We know that. So you're a 5-star. When did you start getting recruited?
Yeah, it's funny. I got my first offer before I got my first legit letter, which is obviously backwards from most people's recruiting story. But I went to a super prominent high school in the Seattle area. We had won 3 straight state titles before I took over the reins. And so I actually replaced the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country, who was also at my high school in 2009, Jake Heaps.
Jake Locker? Oh, Jake Heaps.
Jake Heaps, I would always train and watch Jake Locker at the Dempsey Center, University of Washington, 25 minutes away. But I say that because, in the Northwest bubble, there was a lot of eyes on who's going to replace Jake Heaps up there and who's this Napoleon Dynamite 6'3", $175 sophomore coming out there. And so the recruiting expectations and the eyeballs were on me even before I had my first start. And yeah, funny enough, I got my first offer in June of my freshman year, or going into my sophomore year. We won the University of Washington 7-on-7 camp, and Steve Sarkisian and Doug Nussmeier, Doug Nussmeier's the dad of Garrett Nussmeier, who's obviously all over the quarterback headline world right now. And Doug's the offensive coordinator for the Saints all these years later.
Yeah. And then Garrett goes and wins the Senior Bowl MVP. So
there we go. We go. Yeah, I met Garrett when he came to our little youth camp in high school. Or I was in high school. He was in literally first grade. But yeah, that's where it all started. And then that first offer, laid the foundation for more to come.
Yeah, man, that's freaking cool. And did you grow up a Washington fan, Washington State, USC? What were you a fan of?
I didn't drink the Husky Kool-Aid. My best friend growing up was a Coug. So I grew up in like my world. The Apple Cup was the Apple Cup and the Super Bowl were like neck and neck towards one another for me growing up, just living in that world. But best friend was a Coug, so I always rocked with the Cougs growing up. And yeah, never drank the Husky Kool-Aid. So, and then I was in 8th grade when UW went winless. And so the line I always use is, that's people forget when you're in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, like that's what lays the foundation for how you view a school 3 years later when you're signing. And so I never viewed UW as a blue blood program, as a premier program. And the line I use now is like, if I was 5 years younger and Chris Peterson was at the helm and the Dogs were winning games, my whole recruiting story could be different. But that was a time when UW was winning 0 games, or at least as an 8th grader, and then they won like 7 games a year all throughout high school. And I was like, I want to go play for a blue blood program.
Yeah. Now, did you? Now I can't remember the timeline. Would Mike Leach have been at Wazoo at that time?
So he got hired when I was a junior, or this after my sophomore football season. And yeah, hilarious. That was always the thing, is like the story was Steve Sarkisian, when he got hired at UW when I was a 9th grader, his first stop was at my high school. And then Mike Leach got hired, and then one of his first stops when he went to the western part of the state was my high school as well. Ironically, one of my best friends ended up signing for Leach, so he would always come over. But his recruiting visits by the high school were the most unique of any school, where Leach he's not really kissing your ass, and he's not like really giving you the hardcore spiel, as you could probably imagine. Instead, he had his like associate head coach like always roll with him, and the associate head coach would do like the traditional recruiting spiel. And the joke is like Leach was for literally 30 to 45 minutes, like in my high school locker room, we did like a team building event where you like made your own shield about what mattered to you in life, because we were the Spartans. And Mike Leach read like all 80 shields of random high schoolers while everyone else was getting recruited by the associate head coach. And in classic Mike Leach fashion, it shows his personality.
Yeah, leaves everybody there. Was he reading them out loud?
Exactly. Read them out loud, asking questions, doubling down on those questions, looping in my high school coach, the whole deal.
That's freaking awesome. I love that. And obviously, rest in peace, Mike Leach, but one of the greatest personalities of all time, and then one of the greatest football coaches. He took Texas Tech and made them a prominent program, made Wazoo relevant, more relevant. Don't want to shame the. No,
you're spot on. They were irrelevant for like a decade there. Like when I was in elementary school, the Cougs were rolling. They had made a Rose Bowl with Jason Gesser, but that's like a decade after, they were ass. And Leach brought him back.
Yeah, no, he really did. And he did the same thing with Mississippi State, and then obviously tragedy hits. So terrible situation with them. So Sarkisian's pitching to you from Washington. Probably tough to get that pitch. Then you're getting a pitch from Lane Kiffin at USC, and I'm gonna scold you a little bit. So, who recruited you from Clemson?
Clemson is Chad Morris, and Clemson, ironically, was my 3rd offer, so pretty early on.
Really? Okay. And you, Chad Morris. I played for Chad Morris. Awesome guy. I don't know what your experience is with him. So, Dabo, you must not have talked to Dabo, because there's no way you can tell Dabo no.
Never talked to Dabo. Funny enough, when I called a Clemson game last year, Dabo said he remembered me being on the radar, so to speak. I never took a visit to Clemson or anything like that. There was like a week there when I got offered, and Taj Boyd was rolling, that it was cool to like think about Howard's Rock and the whole deal. But no, I guess my Clemson story is I'll never forget. So again, I got a UW offer, and then I didn't get another offer for like 9 months, and it was Cal. Ironically, it was Tosh Lupoy, who's now their head coach all these years later. Yeah. And then my third offer a couple of days later was Clemson, and that's kind of random and obviously now like a blue blood program, but it wasn't viewed as a blue blood program at the time. Yeah. But my high school coach like brought me into his office and goes, Max, the Tigers want to offer you. And the joke was like, at the time, that's like Jeremy Macklin and Chase Daniel. So I was thinking like Missouri. Yeah. And then I was thinking, oh, and it's not Missouri. Oh, it's LSU. Yeah. And then I was like, wait, what? Oh, Clemson. Oh, and then you connect the dots. But again, I'm now dating myself because I feel like nowadays Clemson's front of mind for recruits. That was not necessarily the case from a kid in the Pacific Northwest.
That's pretty fun. But I also want to give you some kudos. You pronounced Clemson correctly. There is either a silent P or no Z. You know, Kirk Herbstreit's kids went there, and he still says Clemson. It makes me mad. So thank you for fighting that good fight. So that's why you didn't go to Clemson's, because Dabo never spoke to you, because he can convince a drowning man that he needs water. So you got Alabama gives you an offer. Gus Malzahn. I mean, I was just going through the coaches because you're a year older than me. So I was 2012. And I was just thinking, like, man, who are all the coaches back then for all these big time programs? You know, think Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, David Shaw. You know, Stanford's rolling back then too, and that's near your hometown. I mean, was Stanford ever in the running?
Dude, that's a great question. I was having this conversation in the fall. For a kid from the West Coast, getting the Stanford offer at that time was just as big as the Alabama offer, and that's not an exaggeration at all. Now that's kind of like laughable, but. Yeah, I mean, and I was good in school, but I could not have got into Stanford. I mean, if I committed to Stanford, I could have done like the 2 AP or IB classes to like get in. But like I had good grades. I had like a 3.5 in high school, but like I couldn't even get into high school or get into Stanford without the added credits there. But yeah, I remember going to an unofficial visit there. That was right when I was a sophomore, and David Shaw was on his way out. Jim Harbaugh was on his way out. And David Shaw was on his way in. And ironically, man, you're asking some full circle questions. Ironically, I remember meeting Tavita Pritchard, who was a GA at the time, who's now their head coach. And Andrew Luck was going into his sophomore year. So they did like a player panel, and I was one of like the 12 recruits there that was, listening to this player panel. But like, that was peak Stanford. They were rolling. They were getting so many big recruits on the West Coast. And if you were a quarterback, like, getting the Stanford offer was not as big as USC, but it was right there, pretty close.
So what you're telling me is essentially if you recruited Max Browne, you're going to get a head coaching job or a high profile job. Right? Tosh Lupoy, Chad Morris is back at Clemson. And then you got Tavita Pritchard is now the head coach at Stanford. So,
another one I got for you too, and I didn't even know this until this past season, but I called a Florida State game, and Mike Norvell was like, yo, you remember talking to me on the phone? And I was like, no, I got to be honest with you, Coach, I don't. And he got hired at Arizona State when I was like a sophomore going into a junior, and he was kind of a no-name coach at the time, really. Yeah. And so I had like a couple phone calls with him. ASU wasn't really on my radar, but he's another one to add it to the list.
Who was the head coach there at that time?
That was Todd Graham. Yeah, Todd Graham.
Okay. Jim Moore at UCLA. Who could forget? I completely forgot he was there. And then I get to Wisconsin, and I'm going ahead and starting to write in Bo Pelini, and I'm like, wait a minute. Gary Anderson. Who the heck is Gary Anderson? And I couldn't tell you. I would have never been able to tell you who Gary Anderson is. So Wisconsin calls you, and you talk about, Stanford and Wisconsin, they're going to the Rose Bowl all the time during that era. So that's got to be freaking cool. So USD gives you the call.
Here, one, because your audience will like this one Wisconsin story real quick, because I sneaky like Wisconsin. Like if I had to put a top 5 in there, Wisconsin may have been the 5th school.
Give us your top 5. Before, and then give us your story.
I really only had a top 3. It was really only 2 schools, USC and Oklahoma. Alabama was 3. Washington was probably 4. And if I had to put a 5th in there, Wisconsin might have been it. I did like a Midwest loop, and that's when Wisconsin was rolling. But the story I want to tell you is I went out on an unofficial visit to Wisconsin in July. It was beautiful. Wisconsin's right there on the water. Like you get Wisconsin in July, Madison is unreal. So we're sitting there, and it was it actually wasn't Anderson. It was Brett Bielema was head coach, and then Paul Christ was the offensive coordinator. and they like bring me into the office and they go, "So Max, we love your game. We want to offer you a scholarship, but just to be totally transparent, like we're, hot in pursuit for this grad transfer guy. He's like a baseball product, and we're trying to get him. So you might see this news here in the next week of like this baseball guy. We'll see if it works out." Long story short, that baseball guy was Russell Wilson. He goes to Wisconsin, balls out, and I'm from Seattle. And ironically, you mentioned the like awards and whatnot that I got in high school. Russell Wilson presented me with a couple of those. So again, another funny little like full circle moment.
There it is, and you got him the Super Bowl at Seattle because of that recruiting pitch right there. So yeah, they're all attached. That's really cool. So you had your top 5. Oklahoma was Bob Stoops. So did Lincoln Riley do a lot of the pitch for you there?
Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley was not on staff. It was Stoops, and he drove me around in his wife's pink Mercedes. I'll never forget that. Jay Norvell was a receiver coach who he's been a head coach at a couple spots, Nevada, and most recently Colorado State.
Lincoln Riley wasn't there yet. I thought he was the offensive coordinator there. So would it have been? It wasn't Heupel.
It was Josh Heupel. Duh.
Okay,
Josh Heupel. Yeah, Josh Heupel came.
Now he's got a head coaching job.
Literally, and that's the best story of all. You might ask about. I could have saved this for the basketball question, but here we are. So Josh Heupel came to one of my basketball games, and I think Oklahoma was on the fence, rightfully so, whether or not I was athletic enough for them. And they came to my high school basketball game against my rival, and the only high school basketball game that I dunked in, Josh Heupel was on the baseline, and that happened on a Friday night, and I got the Oklahoma offer the Monday morning, so it worked out.
That's awesome. So you proved the movie wrong. White men can jump, and they do dunk at the very end of it, and they get
it. You get some adrenaline, you get 2 feet, little fast break, 2-hand, yam that thing.
Are we in the trust group? You're not gonna share this with anybody if I tell you this?
No, what you got?
Okay, I'm 6'6", with basketball shoes on, probably closer to 6'8". Played some basketball in high school. I've never dunked.
Hey.
My game is on the ground. It's hook shots. I would have been great back in the 1950s.
Hey, you just never got the opportunity, man. If you had a little fast break, hey, maybe you would have made it happen. Love the hook shot game, though. My dad would love your style. He was trying to implement that in my game. I never had it in me.
We had a rusty basketball hoop in my driveway. My dad and I would play horse, and that's all he would do is hit hook shots. So I had to match him, and got pretty good at them. And then I hit the rim one time, and the rim just fell apart. We never had a basketball after that. So pretty rough situation. Walk-on life. It's the walk-on life. So it comes down to USC, Washington, and Oklahoma. You said, right?
Yep.
What makes you pick USC?
Bunch of different reasons. It was a lot of I wouldn't say there was like one main reason. It was a lot of legitimate reasons stacked up on top of one another. So first and foremost, as a kid from the West Coast, at my age, like I'm in 4th, 5th grade when Reggie and Matt Leinart are rolling. So my first thought of what is premier college football, it's USC, especially because I didn't grow up a Husky fan or anything like that. So that, I'll never forget, like in my junior year, my high school head coach came up to me and was like, "Is there anyone else that you want an offer from or anyone else that you want to pursue?" And I mentioned USC because USC was a little late in the game, and USC is known at the time for only recruiting Southern California kind of thing because they don't really need to leave the state of California. But anyways, so like that was one factor. I love the idea of living in LA and getting the USC degree. That was not just lip service. Like my brother lived in LA. I always liked visiting. So that was a factor. Huge factor was, so at the time USC was on sanctions, which sounds like a negative, but to me it was, hey, they didn't take a quarterback in the grade before me. As you know, if you're going in there and you're the only quarterback recruit in your class and they didn't take a quarterback in the class above you, like that brings out a bunch of opportunity. And Matt Barkley was on his way out, and Matt Barkley had started as a true freshman. So in my mind, I'm like, sweet, just copy and paste the Matt Barkley route. I'm going to start as a true freshman, and let's do this thing. And oh, by the way, the last factor, probably the most significant one, the entire year that I was committed to them. So my junior year heading into my senior year. So all of 2012 off season, USC was the #1 team in the country. So that whole off season, it was Matt Barkley, Robert Woods, Marquise Lee, all those guys coming back. USC didn't do anything that year. But the whole offseason of being recruited, USC was the number 1 team in the country.
That wasn't the Alabama game where they came out swaying and then just got smacked, was it?
Unfortunately, that was my first start. I don't know if that's
no, that wasn't on purpose.
That was that was my first start. So great timing, but no, I lived it firsthand in the uniform, not as a high school recruit.
Yeah, those Alabama teams. I mean, my senior year, we played Alabama in the national championship game, and we're in Glendale, Arizona, and we're walking around the corner, and out walks Derrick Henry, and I'm looking at him. I was like, what is that? Yeah, that's a running back. So like the recruits they had back then, absolutely unbelievable. So I mean,
dude, imagine seeing him in high school. So I met him in high school, and I swear he was that big as a senior in high school. Again, and people forget. I mean,
and he's still doing it.
Lockett football fans remember, there was real hesitation, even when he got to Alabama, if he could be a running back. It was he's going to be a linebacker. Oh, he's going to be a rush defensive end, and he's too big to be a back. Obviously, he's proved that wrong, but he was that big in high school, man.
Yeah, it's not fair. That's not fair to be built like that, to run like that. And he had a pretty good game against us. They ended up winning that game. And then fun fact about that, I had 1 year of eligibility left. As a walk-on, you're not playing too much. You're kind of getting beat up a little bit. Went and got my master's, met my wife from Vermont, who they don't play football in Vermont. They just wrestle moose and tap maple trees. So they ended up winning the national championship the next year. So I tell her I traded my national championship ring for your ring, so you can't ever be mad at me. But because
it's a good line. It's a good line. That'll age. That'll age well.
Yeah. It works every time I say it. Yeah, it definitely works really well. So you go to USC. Well, before we do that, I got one more question on the recruiting side. Can you please give us your craziest recruiting story without getting yourself in trouble? I know quarterbacks say that y'all probably had the red carpet rolled out for you.
Dude, honestly, I wish I had, maybe I was too much of a stiffy back then. I don't think I was. I don't have a great answer here. I think as a kid who, upper middle class public school kid, quarterback, you're not getting the bags of money in McDonald's bags and things of that nature. I would say my coolest story, the one that I always kind of think back on, is I'm sitting in art class, first period, again, after my junior year, and it's on my birthday because signing day was ironically on my birthday.
Cool.
Growing up. And for your viewers that don't know, back in the day, that was when a lot of the big time programs kind of turned the page for the next recruiting class, right? So you lock in your class for that year, and then you start calling the juniors and getting rolling for the next year kind of thing.
You don't call them while they're in class, enrolled into school.
Yeah, a little different than the portal days now. But no, my high school football coach, who was a special ed teacher, comes sprinting into my art class, and he had popped in. That was not abnormal because he would do that when a coach was on the phone or in person, and it was kind of just understood. He would flag my teacher, and then my teacher would kind of give me a head nod, and I would leave class for 5-10 minutes. This time, though, he comes in with a certain urgency. And ironically, my high school girlfriend was sitting in the front row seat, right by the door, and walk past the teacher, kind of give eyes to the teacher of this is a little different energy. Eyes to the high school girlfriend. What's going on? My coach clearly has something going on, and then hands me the phone someone wants to talk to you. And I can tell he's geeked out. And sure enough, pick up the phone, and it's Nick Saban from Alabama. Recognized his voice like that. And obviously his story was already well established, and then kicked it up another couple of gears. But, I can think back to, I ended up just walking to the cafeteria and talking to Nick Saban for 10 minutes while all these kids were walking around me. Had no idea I was talking to the GOAT, but it makes for a good story.
That's really cool. Have you met him while working at ESPN yet?
I have not.
All right, we got to get you. You know what? Because he called you, that's why he won more national championships. So there's another feather. He gets to put that feather in his cap because of you. So you're at USC, and you have one of the craziest stories of all time when it comes to how your career. I mean, both your head coaches get fired at USC. Sarkisian gets fired, and the coach before that, Kiffin, gets fired, obviously in very dramatic fashion. I think Chad Helton or Todd Helton takes over.
I think both humans. It's Clay Helton.
Yeah. So Clay Helton takes over, I think, after Sarkisian. All that time period confuses me because it really is insane. And you look at USC, who had Pete Carroll for the longest time, and you think of consistency, consistent winning. Then you had Kiffin, who we now know is not the most consistent in terms of staying places. Then Sarkisian, early on in his career, very up and down in terms of consistency, seems to have gotten right back on the path. And then Cody Kessler comes in. And was he a freshman with you, or what year was he?
He was 2 grades above me.
Okay, so he's in there. You're competing with him for the starting job. Can you kind of walk us through that freshman year of camp and how that goes with Lane Kiffin and Cody Kessler and yourself?
Yeah, so I walk in there. I graduated high school early, which at the time was not uncommon, but I wouldn't say it was like common.
It's more common now, right? Like a lot of guys.
Now it's the majority of guys do it, especially quarterbacks. But I walk in there, and Matt Barkley was on his way out. The team had struggled the year before, so there was a certain kind of edge to the offseason a little bit. But there was myself, Cody Kessler, and Max Whittick, and it was pitched to me and to them. It'd be a 3-horse race for the starting quarterback job. In hindsight, I went in there thinking, all right, sweet, I'm gonna work my ass off, outwork these guys, and win the starting job just like Barkley did as a true freshman. But I struggled to adjust to the college game. Like I needed that redshirt year, and honestly, a redshirt freshman year as well, just to get used to the speed of the game. So while I was technically part of the competition, and you would have never got this out of me back then, the reality is it was very much a uphill battle for me as a true freshman. And Cody Kessler and Max Whittick were battling it out, and was disappointed. It was the first time in my life like I had ever kind of failed at something like football wise. I lost a brutal state championship game one year and things like that. But in terms of like, your world gets rocked of like, wait, what? I did everything I was supposed to do. I worked hard. I did everything and it didn't work out. Like, so that kind of rocked my world a little bit there. But Kessler started, and I was his backup I was the third string my redshirt freshman year, but then I was his backup my redshirt freshman year and redshirt sophomore year.
Yeah, and not to spoil the rest of the interview, but all the quarterbacks you went into battle with end up getting drafted in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're going up against slouches. Like Cody Kessler's a 3rd-round draft pick. Who was the next? Sam Darnold. Later on in your career at USC, he ends up being a 1st-round draft pick. You go to Pitt. Ben DiNucci's a 7th-round draft pick. I mean, and ends up having a really good career. I mean, people kind of laugh at Ben DiNucci, but man, he's made some money, being a career backup and spot starter. And I think he just got re-signed by the Broncos during this year's playoffs. So, and then obviously Ben DiNucci loses the job to Kenny Pickett, who ends up getting drafted in the 1st round. So, I mean, it's not like you were going up against slouches. So it really is interesting how all those quarterbacks end up in the same room as you. So you feel this failure for the first time. How did you react to that? Mentally, emotionally. I mean, because like I know as a walk-on, I'm the big fish in high school. I go to Clemson and I'm a nobody, and you're like, wait a minute, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like the coaches are supposed to be giving me extra time, talking to me, and now I'm fighting to get attention from anybody. I'm fighting to do extra reps in the weight room so that I can just be considered to do, stuff on special teams. Like, so how did you react to that?
Yeah, I struggle with it because I'd like to think I was a low ego guy, which ironically saying that, means I'm bringing ego to it. But like, I was very, like I had a formula going into USC. It was, I'm going to be the hardest working guy in the room and I'm going to treat people right. And as a result, I'm going to get success and good things are going to happen. And I think I followed that formula, treating people right. Felt like I never got outworked in my college career, yet when things didn't work out, you're kind of sitting there like, well, what's happening? What's going on? And I think I started to get frustrated quickly when that didn't happen. And I think when you're the 5-star number 1 quarterback in the country, there's no warm-up period. There's no ramp-up period to your college career. You're expected, and maybe I probably put too much pressure on myself, and I added to that. But there was no, hey, give myself grace to grow into college football. It was, man, why am I not playing at an elite level from the jump? And in hindsight, I probably could have given myself more grace there. But over the course of my college career, I do think it hardened me in a good way. I do think I got used to competition. I never took things for granted. I did the classic treating every practice like a game because there's always someone coming for your spot. Like I was never one of those guys that was like laissez-faire and you kind of wake up your redshirt sophomore year to be like, oh man, I need to do something. Like, no, that wasn't me. And I think that mindset certainly helped me initially win the battle with Sam Darnold in the 2016 season because I was well versed in what quarterback competitions were and it wasn't anything new and I was prepared for that. And I think it helped me win the battle with Ben DiNucci and Kenny Pickett the year later. Again, they were younger guys kind of growing into it. And for me, I hadn't done it on the field in Saturdays, but I had many a years of practices, not having the luxury of kind of wasting a team period.
Yeah. And I got two things out of that. So I want to commend you because it is very difficult. You say you're a low ego guy. I would have considered myself that way too. And I would have said the same thing. I guess saying low ego makes me egotistical or makes me, not humble. But I would argue that some of the other side that you play football, you start at a young age. A lot of times, people play flag football. I think I started playing football when I was 6 years old. It becomes your identity a little bit. And when you're not playing, you're like, you kind of lose a piece of yourself. And it's very weird to deal with. And I don't think a lot of people who don't play sports for a very long time and at such a high level really get it. Like, I didn't play even at the highest level as you did, but you get that taken away and you're like, wait a minute, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And I want to commend you for reacting to it because you could have gone the other way and said, screw this. And you end up building this hardened mold and extra humility to work harder. And I think it's paying off now, in the sports industry. I mean, you've risen pretty quickly. I don't want to take away from all the hard work you put in because your YouTube channel is phenomenal, by the way. I've been following it since you started. What was it, back in 2018? Your minute reviews on things were phenomenal. The way you break down the game is phenomenal. So I just want to take a second and commend you because it is very difficult to lose in something that you identify yourself as. And then,
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that. And I think one little nugget there, sorry to cut you off, but I think, and you might be able to relate to this, but I think we very much grew up in the era of learning the Mamba mentality ways. And oftentimes we glorify that when it is Tiger Woods and Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant, because that worked out for them. I would think that again, I'm wary of that, how this sounds, but I was wired that way, which again is like, yo, bro, chill out. You're not Kobe, Tiger, or
but you can have the same mentality.
Jordan. But that was my mentality. And to your point about identity, like it very much was wrapped up in football because that's how we were taught. We were taught not to waste a day. And it was kind of taught that you got to be singular focus and all in and never get outworked and all that. And again, that mindset and the hard work has given me a lot in my career, and I'm very grateful for that. But I do think the downside of that is what we're talking about, where you can overanalyze things, not give yourself grace, attach your identity to the 10th level on things, and it makes it it can make it tough, especially when things don't fall your way.
Yeah, and naturally, the first thing you do is attack yourself. What did I do wrong? And then you remember, hey, there's more to this. There's more to this than just what's happening that out there in the world. How can I grow from this? What can I take this and move myself forward? And I would ask, it seems like this is something you would do. Did you take those experiences and once you're battling with those younger guys and Kenny Pickett and Ben DiNucci, did you kind of become a mentor during those battles and kind of show them, hey, this is the ropes? Or were you competing with hey, these guys are fighting for a job. I'm not giving them anything right now.
It's funny you asked that because I just filmed a YouTube video about a Q&A on my battles with Sam Darnold for obvious reasons, given that it's Super Bowl week when we're filming this.
Yeah, some people are talking about him right now.
Yeah, and I used that term of Sam and I were very much friends, but of all the quarterbacks I played with, I do think there was a little bit of a mentor-mentee vibe between us, which is ironic because he ultimately ended up beating me out, and he's obviously had a hell of a career and is playing for the Super Bowl on Sunday. But I do think we always got too.
But look at his career in the NFL. I would say it's very similar to how your college career was, and maybe some of the times you spent with him and going over those things. Again, to give you some credit, had to have helped him respond the way he has in his NFL career. It had to have.
Yeah, who knows? I appreciate you saying that, but I think Yeah, I mean, we were definitely buddies. It was healthy competition, and there was an element of, hey man, here's how I'm reading this scheme. Here's the extra work I'm doing after. Hey, come throw routes with me. And then, hey, it's Friday afternoon. You want to come over and have beers? And my condo had like the parties and stuff too. Like we very much ran within the same circle. So to answer your question, there was a little bit of that with Sam, but don't get me wrong, we were very much like friends first before the mentor mentee vibe. With the DiNucci and Kenny Pickett, I would say I had the mentor mentee vibe with Kenny a little bit. Again, friends first. I'm not acting like I, was like his, guiding voice or anything like that. But ironically, Kenny and I went on our official visits on the same weekend, even though we're 5 years apart. I was in transferring as a grad transfer, and he was, a high school senior. And so we had the official visit kind of together and created a bond there. And I think he was content initially redshirting. He ultimately didn't, I don't believe. Yeah, he played as a true freshman, so I don't think he was able to do that. But there was a vibe there. With DiNucci, understandably so. He was a redshirt sophomore. He was thinking he was going to start. Who's this guy coming from outside to try to take my job? That was a little bit more. We were always friendly, but it was much more of a competition in that way.
Yeah, and you entered the transfer portal before it was cool. So good for you. You're there with Pat Narduzzi. From the outside, I've never met Pat Narduzzi. Don't want to call him by his first name. I don't know him. Seems like an awesome guy. So what was it like playing for Pat Narduzzi?
First off, it was a different experience playing for a defensive head coach rather than the four other head coaches I had were all offensive outside of Ed Orgeron, but I only had Ed Orgeron for 4 games there.
I wouldn't call him offensive or defensive either. Ed Orgeron,
he's just motivational CEO kind of guy. But that was different. It was a different vibe where, in the past, my head coach was my play caller. So they kind of went hand in hand. The fact that was not the case for Narduzzi was just different. It was a defensive identity kind of program. But Narduzzi is exactly the way you would think. That's the best way that I can put it. The way that he comes across in the media, he's going to tell you how it is. He's definitely going to have a blue collar mentality, a rough, tough mentality that aligns well for Pitt. But he was good. He was good to me. And, I've always appreciated, I work in the ACC now, and I was only at Pitt for 12 months, but they treat me as if I was there for my entire college career. And they treat me as family, and Narduzzi stayed in touch. Narduzzi was the only head coach to text me on my wedding day kind of thing. Not that he should have or that any of them should have, but I say that just to kind of show you what kind of dude he is.
Man, that's awesome. And that kind of confirms my perception of him. To go backwards a little bit, were you there when Ed Orgeron ate the worm?
Ate the worm? I have not heard this story, no.
Oh, so he tells the story on Pardon My Take, but I believe it was at USC. And to motivate the guys, he talked about eating a worm, and I couldn't really understand what he's saying because he's at Orgeron, but he literally eats a worm in front of the entire in the team meeting room. I could have sworn it was when you were there. Maybe it wasn't. Obviously it wasn't. I think you would remember that. But so you think about Ed Orgeron just being a character. That's the first story that always comes to my head is when
he's got no shortage of stories, whether it's a worm or he had his lap around campus. He'd always run, hammering sugar-free Red Bulls, firing students up. I went through the McDonald's drive-through with him my first weekend at USC, and he hooked it up with some quarter pounders. Yeah, no, Ed Orgeron's awesome. And funny enough, I saw him for the first time in a decade, literally, or more than that. First time in 12 years. I saw him a couple weeks ago at the national championship game, and it was he didn't recognize me like right away, but after like 2 seconds, he or like 1 second, oh, of course. And it was a good encounter.
And he seems like a really good guy. A few months ago, I interviewed Stephen Garcia, the former quarterback for South Carolina, and he talked about when Ed Orgeron was at Ole Miss. He wanted to go to Ole Miss and play for Ed Orgeron, and Ed called him up and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here, Garcia. So don't commit here." Which I mean, that's pretty big for a coach to do that. To go out of his way to call somebody and say, "Hey, just gonna let you know, I probably ain't gonna be here for much longer. Don't come here and try to follow me or whatever. So go do what you got to do." So it seems like he's a person first kind of guy. And then we kind of roll into your broadcasting career. So did you always want to be in this realm, or what got you into wanting to do broadcasting And how YouTube, why YouTube, how'd you get to where you are?
Love this question. Yeah, as you could probably, relate to, and anyone that played college football, it feels like the locker room's made up of a lot of guys that either want to go coach or they want to go down the media route whenever they're done playing. And
yeah,
I'm obviously speaking with a broad brush there, but I never latched onto the coaching route. It was always very apparent to me how gnarly that lifestyle is. And then the media side.
It is.
The media side always intrigued me. In my mind at USC, I was like, sweet, I'll do this in 20 years after my NFL career. But it all sparked when I was the backup at USC. As you know, they don't get reps. The backup quarterback doesn't get reps on Fridays. And it all started when on Fridays they were doing like the 2-minute drill. And I'd be like off in the corner with our like special team, like our like tight end coach, assistant coach, like commentating the 2-minute drill and doing kind of a back and forth banter, like in front of like the punters and kickers and walk-ons to bring it full circle to the podcast. And that was like a fun little 7-minute little encounter that kind of planted the seed in my head that like, yo, this would be fun to pursue when the time comes. And then I doubled down on that. So at Pitt, I got hurt midway through and ripped up my shoulder. And that was the final year of college. And Narduzzi did like a freshman scrimmage during the bye week. And Narduzzi was a head coach that had a microphone during practice in the indoor. And when that freshman scrimmage was happening, when Kenny Pickett was the quarterback, Narduzzi gave me the mic. So I got a sling in one hand, a mic in the other. And I just like announced the freshman scrimmage more in kind of like a street ball, like kind of run and gun type of vibe. But again, it planted the seed of like, hey, this would be fun whenever the time comes. And people would come up to me like, man, you should give it a run whenever the time comes. And then I gave pro ball a run. So that was 2017, that rookie Pickett story. I gave pro ball a run 2018 and the first couple months of 2019, and then hung up the cleats. And at that time, that was right when Dan Orlovsky's career was taking off. And those that remember, he got his start doing like basement videos on Twitter of X's and O's content before before all 22 content kind of went more mainstream. Orlovsky was kind of the first guy to do it. And I saw that and I was like, one, I can do that, but two, I can add more production value and, in my opinion, make the experience better. Obviously, Orlovsky's done real well for himself, but I took that mold and couple that with the advice that I was getting from everyone at the time of like, you don't need a network to take a chance on you. You can create your own content in 2018. And I did a YouTube breakdown show of Pac-12 football games. And really at the time, I didn't have the goal of being a full-time content creator at the time. I understood the power of content. I could see where the content world was going, but my goal was just, hey, let me make these YouTube videos to get my foot in the door for traditional broadcasting opportunities, which that's exactly what happened. I was able to package those original YouTube videos in 2018 into a reel. That reel, I was able to connect with my agent, and then I had a fill-in gig with SiriusXM and a hit with a network called Stadium. And just like any walk of life, it kind of started with baby steps or started just crawling. And then each season it kind of picked up from there. But without social media content, I would not be where I'm at today.
Yeah, and it's funny how life works. You know, everything happened for a very purposeful reason in your life. You know, you talk about, you literally played in Hollywood. You talk about production. There you go. Where's the best place to get, exposed to production? You get to do some practice reps with your coach, trying to be silly in front of the guys, which is the best time. The punters and the kickers and the walk-ons might be the funniest people on the team. People don't know that unless you've been into a locker room. And look up Walk-On Rap 2016 national championship in Clemson, and you might see my face with a bad mustache on there. So we made a rap up to from Lord, but anyway, Walk-On's the best. Humbly, I say that very humbly. But everything happened for a very purposeful reason with you, and it seems like you're taking it and just doing the most with it, and that's so much fun to watch. I know the young go-hards nowadays, when you say doing the most, it's a bad thing. I mean it in a good way. So congratulations on that. I mean, it's so fun. I feel like I've watched you grow in terms of content from 2018 to now, and now I get to watch you when Clemson's struggling on offense announce my games. So I got one last thing. These might be the hardest questions you've ever heard in your entire life, so I do want you to prepare a little bit.
There we go. Okay. Bring it on.
My toddlers. I was talking to my kids. I got 3 kids. My 10-month-old was not ready to give you a question, so maybe next time. But my 3-year-old and my 4-year-old had questions for you. My 4-year-old boy, he asks you, how good can you throw a football?
Not good at all anymore. Last snap of competitive football I ever played, I ripped up my right shoulder, so I can't throw.
Really?
I can play like backyard 4th of July, like toss the pigskin around, but anything beyond like 25 yards or having to like rip it, my labrum in my right shoulder turns into a guitar string that's about to snap. So it was it's funny, like I'll get asked to play like, pick up 7-on-7 quarterback every once in a while, and I have to do like the classic, like, oh man, the shoulder doesn't work the way it used to, and guys are like, oh come on man, like get out there. I'm like, well no, I'm like kind of serious, but I know to you it looks kind of like I'm throwing the ball well, but I promise you, like, this is not even close to where we once were. So hey, that's the blessing and the curse of football, is when it's done, it's kind of done. That's why you got to take advantage when you're in it.
Yeah. So, and then a follow-up question on that. How many beers at the 4th of July until your Uncle Rico and really slinging that thing?
So I'm Uncle Rico. Shoot, I got to go enough to numb the pain. So I got to go double digits, right? You got to give me a game of like flip cup. I don't know what they called it at Clemson, but you got to give me some like beverage games. And maybe if we get double digits, I can forget the pain.
We had beer ball too. Did you ever play beer ball?
Is that where you throw with ping pong balls and there's a beer in each corner and you're like running around to like, yeah, okay, yep.
I almost tore my knee up playing that game. Very competitive game. Not a good game to play when you're trying not to get hurt.
Heard that. Yeah, you got to be especially if there's a lot of beer that's flying around, slippery surface that's waiting to twist an ankle.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last question. This might be even harder. My 3-year-old girl asks you, what's your favorite cheese?
The favorite cheese. Favorite cheese. I'm going to go a little curveball. I'll go Boursin cheese, like where you're like dipping it with like wheat thins as like an hors d'oeuvre. Get it from Trader Joe's. That's you're not putting that on sandwiches, but I just had some last night, so I'll put that on the list.
Yeah, so shout out Jag and Ramsey for the hard-hitting questions. I appreciate y'all helping get some good content on here. Max, I appreciate you coming on. Please go follow Max at Max Browne on YouTube. Very difficult, so if you can spell his name, you can follow him on YouTube. Is there anywhere else we can follow you and follow your content?
Yeah, try to be active on all the platforms. So Instagram and TikTok. Max Browne. Browne has an E at the end. You'll find me there. Trying to be active on LinkedIn as well. Level up the game there. But no, man, thanks for having me on. It's always fun reflecting on the chapters.
Yeah, absolutely. And football does so much for your life. It's really cool to go back and see what everybody's story was and where it took them. But I appreciate you coming on. And guys, like, subscribe, and go follow Max Browne. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, William.